Welcome to our Anders chat. This is a conversation between the team at Anders and myself, Gail Patterson from Buzzword Tech. It's part of an Anders series entitled Getting to Know Us. This chat is the first in the series and it's called Peer-to-Peer Communication, which includes Ray Evans, Business Development from Embedded, Mike Logan, who's the Senior Product Manager, and Stephen McGaugh, who's the New Business Development Manager. Today, we'll be chatting about the benefits that your customers have experienced and expressed about their positive journey gained through long-standing relationships through your peer-to-peer model. So if we start at the beginning of the production lifecycle, for business development, we'll introduce Anders to a new customer and a new customer to Anders. I believe you call this the buddy approach. So tell me about the buddy approach and how it works.
Well, basically, we like to speak to the customer from an engineering point of view about their project at the very, very start of our conversation with them. They may have already made contact with Stephen as part of his new business development role. But as soon as the customer engages with us, we like to have a call with them on Teams generally. And Mike, who's a long-standing product manager and excellent engineer for Anders, been with us a long time, and myself from the embedded side of things. So I look after the embedded side of what Anders offer, and Mike does the displays. And generally between the two of us, we can give the customer a good solution as a front end. Now, it may be the case that the customer only wants embedded, or maybe only wants displays because they're already sorted out their embedded, and that's absolutely fine. But it's just good to be able to look at it from holistically rather than just, you know, what is it you want? And then, yes, we'll try and give you that. It's generally, we like to try and find out what's the customer's trying to achieve, and to bring some of the experience that we've gained through working on many other similar type of projects throughout the years, and to see if we can actually give some insight and perhaps reduce the risk on the design itself, and really sort of head things off at the beginning, and just make sure we're on the right track, and make sure we're giving the customer exactly what he needs to achieve a successful rollout of a product. So, but maybe, you know, Mike, you'd like to add something to that as well.
Yeah, sure. Probably what I've seen over the years with display, the displays actually forms one of the main components of a finished product. It's that component that communicates with the user. So it's very important that we choose a display or select a display which will do just that, will output information visually to the customer. So it needs to be readable, it needs to have good contrast and good viewing angles as well. So it really depends on the application. So what we like to do when we say the buddy approach, we will speak to the people who are actually involved in developing their end product. Okay, so what are the main features we're looking at? And what are the main challenges? What do we need to do to ensure that we can select a display that will go into their end product and perform to their expectations? So these conversations start very, very early in the development cycle. For instance, if it's a product that's going to be used outdoors and the ambient light is going to be such that it's sunlight raining down on the screen, we need to make sure that we will design in features into that display so that that display will be able to deliver on outputting information to any user and then when I say that, I mean that the user should be able to read the information on that screen, whether there's sunlight beating down on it or not. And there are many ways that we can overcome that. We can add certain design features into the display to make that display readable and to be able to perform to the expectation of the user and also to our customers. And just simply by getting this information right at the beginning of the project. And when we add this peer-to-peer, we find that customers tend to open up and tell us a bit more about their application, because the more we know about an application, the better we can design the product to fit.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense, because I can imagine, so someone like yourself, Stephen and Anders, your role is new business development, so you're going out, you know, looking for new customers, and obviously as well through the various activities that you do, customers also come to Anders. And I guess really what you're then looking to do from the outset is look at that business and look at the fit for Anders, and then I guess what get to the right person at the right place, so that you can make those connections within that organisation and within Anders as soon as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely, and one of the advantages of the system that we're using is we're only taking advantage of the technology that's available. So using Teams for our meetings, Zoom, being able to share data specifications, being able to invite additional people to calls, because a lot of initial inquiries, it might be somebody in the sales team. Now, when you open it up to having Rhett, who's the embedded business development manager, Mike, who's our senior product manager, you're now inviting many more people, and you tend to find as a reaction, the company will invite more of their own, say, engineers or somebody that wasn't necessarily involved in the inquiry. And that way, rather than email to email messages, we're really getting to the bones of the inquiry, and it really early on. And the advantage of that is sometimes the product they're asking for might not actually be what they need, and we'd be doing them a disservice by not listening to them. And it takes more than just communication by email. Now, as a technology company, we want to take advantage of the technology that's available to us. And online communication like Teams, Skype, whatever, you need to use them all. And as the last 12 months have proven, due to lockdown, people are working from home, we're all in different situations, but that doesn't have to stop how an inquiry moves. And indeed, it's proven to move inquiries along quicker, because when someone comes to us, or we're looking for a company to work with, their project's important to us just as it is to them, and we want to make sure we're listening to them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I guess, as you say, you know, electronics to electronics, at the end of the day, everyone's a tech company, like you say, Stephen, and we all know within tech the essence of getting your product to market, not just on time, but getting it so that it's got a competitive advantage before before your competitors, is critical in terms of time and yield. So I suppose one of the benefits that customers must have expressed is that you're simplifying that supply chain to be able to inject speed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to add as well that Stephen always sits in with us on these calls, so he's really developed a sense of what we can offer. And if Stephen is talking to you and wants to set up a call, it's because he knows that we can offer you something. He knows we can. We probably a right partner for you, and because he totally understands now. Maybe not the nuances, but he certainly understands the concepts of what we can offer for customers and how we can solve their problems. And so if Stephen is reaching out to you, it's because there's a good chance we can do something for your company.
Excellent. So in terms of benefits for the customer, you've spoke a little bit about from the outset making sure that the product is essentially fit for function. So as Mike suggests, if it's going to be outside and the person needs to be able to read it, so for example signage or anything like that, then you have to think about that application and you have to design a product that's fit for function. But I can imagine there's a lot of scenarios that would fit into in the environment, whether it be heat, temperature control, robustness, vandalism, etc. So what about expanding on that a little bit? Yeah,
sure. That's a really good point when you mentioned heat, because with sunlight, direct sunlight beating down on the screen, it's going to generate some heat. Plus, one of the ways to make a display sunlight readable is to make sure you've got a nice bright backlight on there. So that really help. But of course, you've got a bright backlight on there, you're going to generate a bit more heat. Obviously, so these are things that we need to take into consideration. What effect will heat have on the performance of that display? Well, one thing that I can mention, if a display gets too hot, you find that the display itself will just start to go black as the liquid crystal material starts to meet what we call a critical phase, what we call the clearing point. And the clearing point, it basically means that it loses all its optical functionality, does not work in the way it should, because the way that it's twisted and oriented in line with polarizers, all that breaks down. And so essentially what you'll get now is just in that area, the display just starts to go black. And so we need to find the ways that if we're going to design a backlight, how do we ensure that we can keep it cool? So the ways you can design a backlight and add certain heating management features in there to draw the heat away from the displays, particularly in the area where the LEDs are placed. Well, that's and you see the heat start to rise up and the screen starts to go black. So we need to sort of devise ways to draw that, to make sure it's distributed evenly across the display, and also to escape. There are also things like, okay, it's outside in the open, it's for public use. Is there any chance of it being vandalized? Probably, yes. So nobody wants their product to be, but I'm not saying to go out and vandalize a product, but we have to take that is a possibility. So maybe we need to have a look at what type of cover lenses that you want to put in, how thick does it need to be. So a good strong cover lens will help your product to survive. And there's also what we call, there's an IK rating, which basically is a product's ability to resist external impacts to it. So we find normally with outdoor application, like the IK08 would be the minimum that requirement. There are also higher levels like IK09 and IK10. But we find that IK08 tends to be the minimum, and so we would design a cover lens using certain glass or certain material that could be chemically strengthened or perhaps tempered, but it needs to be strong enough to withstand an impact of 5 joules on the front of the display, and that goes along with the rest of the enclosure that device is built into. So yes, there are other things other than site readability. There's a management of the temperature, and there's also there is the impact resistance that we need to consider as well. So all in all, we're looking at supplying our customers with a display that will survive in all these environmental hazards that it no doubt can come to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, here I sit today in Scotland and the heavens have opened and the rain is coming down, whereas, yeah, you know, we're sort of getting forecast all this excellent heatwave weather elsewhere. So I suppose, you know, one shoe size does not fit all. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, because, Stephen, I can imagine when a customer comes to Anders, they may even be looking for something kind of like off the shelf. They may think they can just come in and get almost like a commodity type product. But through your buddy approach, by talking peer-to-peer from business development to engineering, and likewise within your customer, I guess you're able to sort of say, yes, perhaps part of that could be off the shelf. However, because of your actual field application, we may look to customize that or tailor make that in a certain way. So would that be the reality?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of nuances to it, to an action inquiry, where that's why it's so important to have the right people on these calls really early on, because there can be so much, as Mike's mentioned, intricacies to something that people aren't necessarily considering, and sometimes they might actually be asking something that's over the spec that they actually require, and that's why it's so important to find out what the application is. Like Mike said, where is it going? And there's so many different questions. What's powering the display? And to have everyone on the call is probably the difference between an hour of a communication rather than 2 weeks worth of emails back and forth. And it's just the difference maker, where you can come off a call potentially that day. Sometimes we can confirm which product is suitable. And in some instances, people have ordered samples within that week. Every call is like that, but that does happen, and people with confidence knowing we are providing the right information for the product that potentially is going to be out in the market for the next 10 years. So it's important to us as it is to the customer, and it's definitely something that's, when we come out of lockdown, I think as a company, it's something that we'll continue to do, and how we will effectively communicate with our customers.
And going back to the peer-to-peer approach as well, nearly every customer, I think pretty much every customer we've done this with has gotten something out of it that they weren't expecting, because it's generally a very positive experience for them, because a lot of customers don't realize that the range of services that we offer to the customers, like you say, taking off the shelf parts and customizing them to make them perfect for their application. And the other services we offer, like so we will take a core module like that one, so that we're using the IMX8 right now, is our focus. But we can design the carrier board that goes around that, or we can create a kit which brings up the display of your choice up on the embedded platform of your choice. So we do custom cabling and that sort of thing. And we generally work with customers. We're not a design house in that respect. If you don't really know what you want, but you kind of know what you want it to look like and what it to do, then you work with a design house, and a design house would probably work with someone like us. But if you're just looking to expand your engineering team to do carrier board layout for something like this, and to get it working with the display, and sort of, can I have someone who can just take care of that for me? Then that's where we come into our own, I think. We offer PCB design services, software services, even to the application level. And adding drivers and debugging drivers, and put in an enabling platform so customers can just focus on their bits, focus on their application, focus on their secret source of electronics, which does the magic. And our sort of front end is generally the sort of graphical user front end and the communications hub. And the customer may want to focus on that, and because he has limited resources. But if the customer is resource rich, then we can still help them with a core module and the display, and maybe some custom cabling, and be a real partner to that customer. That's what we're looking for, as partners, as much as anything else.
And I think what I'm sort of hearing from that process is that even if your customer is resource rich, as you say, what you're enabling them to do is you're enabling them to really concentrate on their own business. You're enabling them to concentrate on their next generation, their marketing and sales approach, their go-to-market strategies, because you, as the design and embedded specialists, essentially take care of that part for them, which allows them to continue, to develop their own business, which must give a certain degree of peace of mind for your customers, don't you think?
Well, yeah, because part of the design, as opposed to just getting a third party to do it, we have a vested interest in that design and making sure it's right, because we don't make money. That's not our business model. Design is not our business model. Displays, moving displays to you and embedded hardware to you is our business models, but having us part of that design team and part of that design process is kind of making sure that we have skin in the game in that design, because our success is your success. So and that service is available to customers who want to take advantage of it, or they can just use us for component parts as well. Mm-hmm. Whatever gets you across the line, to budget and on time.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think it's an interesting business model, because, like you say, and even just looking at the Anders geographical landscape, you've got, firstly, within your internal team, I think you speak something like 13 different languages. So that peer-to-peer communication, again, is simplified through that. But just even where you're geographically located, I think it really benefits the customer as well in terms of touch points.
Sure. Well, we've got the office in China, an office in Italy, and the UK, 2 offices in the UK. And we have partners around the world, in the Far East and in Israel. and we generally have it covered. You know, we have customers in Finland and Australia, significant customers in Finland and Australia, for instance. I mean, I think that's well, no, I think New Zealand might be a little bit further, but that's not bad. That's not bad for a company from the UK. So.
And I think you touched on it earlier as well, right? Because you don't have a specialism in one particular market segment, you have a specialism across all industry segments. And especially, you know, you face things like COVID, where, you know, certain market segments dip, but other market segments rise. Then you certainly have not got all your eggs in one basket. But I think if I was a customer of Anders, I'd be looking at, well, you know, you've got qualifications, you know, the certification that I would require perhaps for a medical device. So I certainly can trust you with my consumer device, if that is simplifying it, yeah?
Oh yeah, I mean, most of the time our customers are producing product which is generally doing one or two jobs, specific jobs, and they're doing them all the time. You know, then we design for 24/7 type operation, you know. And that can be including, you know, energy saving type measures as well when we're doing our designs, because, you know, for the obvious reasons. And so yeah, if we are designing and building along industrial lines, you know, for your commercial, it would be another level above commercial type applications.
Excellent. No, I certainly think that, you know, coming to Anders and being a customer of Anders and having a certain degree of hand holding, if you require that hand holding through that customer experience and that journey, just adds peace of mind. So I think I'm okay to and I'm comfortable understanding this buddy approach. But if there's anything that you guys want to add at all to make sure that people really understand the makeup of it, then please do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're talking about, what you're talking to today is the team that will be a part of the initial conversations and to get the project started and to get it moving. There are account managers who will then be working with the customer closely from a commercial and logistic point of view as well. But we stay with the project up to the point where we hand it over to the engineers. So we have a whole engineering team behind us as well. That once we get the project moving in the right direction and the customer's happy, then the engineering side of the business will then offer full support, technical support as well as services support. And then you have the account manager as well, who is overseeing that and who's responsible for the smooth running of that project, and making sure everything is coordinated. So everything we do, and then of course you have QA engineers, which we brought in as well, just to make sure that everything is done in the proper procedures are followed, and tick boxes are checked. To make sure that the product is exactly right for you guys, and that could even involve engineers coming to your offices or to your manufacturer or subcontractor, and we can make sure just put an eye over the production process when you get into pre-production, just to make sure everything's been put together correctly, so there's no issues in production as well. So we follow the whole project right through to mass production, and it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? Cooperative.
Yeah, collaborative
procedure and process. And yeah, it's like I said, we have skin in the game. We want to make sure you are successful, and because your success is our success. So so at some point, Mike and I may step back, but we're always available to call on as well. Mike's been with us. How long, Mike?
Oh, 7 years now, I believe.
7 years. We're not going anywhere. I've been here 18 years. I shouldn't say that, really. I shouldn't say that, my boss. But we've been here 18. I've been here 18 years, 27 years. We're not going anywhere. So you can call us back at any time during that process as well.
Yeah. I think That's another point to add as well, that the Anders model is certainly one of organic growth and development. But I think from what you're talking about and that sort of peer-to-peer communications and that buddy approach with your customer, it sounds as if you don't leave any stone unturned and you very much take a belt and braces approach with that customer to ensure that you've got peace of mind completely throughout that complete production life cycle and beyond. So it's very, very interesting. So I guess I would just wrap by saying that if anyone wants to find out anything else, then they can do so. You guys are all on LinkedIn, so they have your name, they can connect with you on LinkedIn and they can shoot questions over to you. But also the Anders website has the chat function and they would be able to find you on there too as part of the team. And they can get in contact with you anytime, any day. And you're here to help them with any of their product and production queries.
And I'd like to add as well that, you know, even if we can't do what you want, because, you know, we'll point you in the right direction. If it turns out that we can't do what you want, it's unusual for that, but it sometimes happens, and we will definitely point you in the right direction and advise you where to go. So please come and talk to us.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much and take care and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.